So here's a game that managed to catch me completely by surprise. It's a game where you play anime waifus fighting against Lovecraftian horrors. Like, what can be better than that? And everything about it, as far as I've played, seems to be amazing. The art style is very interesting. The only colors that you get to experience are black, white, and red, and they all have their motifs and their themes in the game. So far, it seems that the battle is between two powerful entities, one of them being the mother and the other being the suffering. The mother represents a very powerful warrior, while the suffering represents all of the atrocities that mankind did to one another. And the battle takes place in another dimension where the suffering is trying to pierce through the veil. The veil being the only thing that protects humanity from all of the Lovecraftian horrors that the suffering can bring. And the mother is the only entity that tries to prevent the suffering from breaking through the veil. And right in the beginning of the game, she fails. And this game is very focused around this particular theme of constant failure. But she does seem to have the power to wind back time and try again and again and again, very similar to Groundhog Day, if you will. And after she failed, she died, but her soul remains. And instead of fighting herself, she uses her daughters to fight for her. And it's really nicely made because, them being anime waifus and they're really cute and adorable, it makes it really easy to like them and get attached to them, especially since it's like XCOM in a way, where you get attached to your soldiers. And it's more painful when they die, and they die quite a lot. In fact, this game actually forces you to sacrifice your daughters in order to progress. Because the only way to heal one of your daughters after taking damage is to sacrifice another one of similar level so that it heals the other. And in exchange, a part of her soul also gets transferred in the process. So let's say if you sacrifice a daughter that is on the Guardian class in order to heal a daughter that is one of the range fighters, then the range fighter is now also going to get a bonus at defense. And I have to say, like, all the atmosphere and the music lovely comes together in making these sacrifices feel worthwhile. Like, you get attached to these characters, which is probably why the first time you create one, you're forced to give it a name. And if you don't give a name, then the computer automatically generates a name for them. And they have names like innocence, virtue, prudence. So everything is made, I suppose, in a way to get you to be attached to them. And you're already getting attached because they level up. You equip them with various abilities. So when one of them has to die, it's quite painful. And dying is an integral part of the game, and you do have to get used to it. The more you die, surprisingly, the more strong you become because you're going to gather some resource which allows you to retry the same week over and over again while gaining certain buffs and abilities. Now, I did mention a week, so what is a week? Well, the game focuses on memories that the mother has. And for example, the first week is about medieval France during the Great Plague. And you have to take different missions. And when you reach 7 days, you're going to fight a boss. And if you lose against the boss, then you have to restart the week all over again. And if you manage to win, then all your daughters die anyway, and then you go to the next era. And there are ways to actually resurrect some of the daughters, but the currency for it seems to be quite rare. There are bonuses that do give you a free resurrection, so it's not completely unlikely that you can have a daughter that you level up and you upgrade, and you have her like your S tier, while you keep the other daughters as sacrificial lambs in order to keep buffing her up and powering her up. Now, the tactical aspect, I like the fact that it didn't try to copy XCOM in it, because most turn-based strategy games that are similar to this genre have tried to emulate and copy XCOM because that's really popular. But this one does it completely different. Like, the combat mechanics are actually difficult to describe here because they're quite original. However, it feels really good. You can strategize quite a bit, considering that your characters can gain up to 8, sometimes 9 different abilities. And some of them can combo off each other. So, strategizing and planning is very effective in this game. I never felt like I was being cheated. I never felt like it's like an XCOM where it was just bad dice rolls that would get you to miss an otherwise 90% shot. And all of a sudden, your character dies because of bad dice rolls. I hated that. I didn't get to experience any of this in the game. And what I really enjoyed about it is that some abilities are actually quite powerful. Like, for example, the class that allows you to wield 2 guns has a very interesting ability of stopping an enemy in its tracks. The way it works is like an Overwatch. You use it, the character goes into a stance, and whenever an enemy tries to attack an ally, the character will interrupt that attack. The problem is that by doing this, it costs 10% of your HP. And as I mentioned before, the only way to heal in this game is to sacrifice another daughter of an equal or higher level. So it becomes really difficult to make these decisions, because while the ability is quite powerful, and in some cases you can't even manage to progress without using it, you have to take into account that you're going to take some damage. And it's a very interesting strategical decision if you want a little bit of damage now, but to prevent a lot of damage from happening to another ally. The way you can upgrade the daughters is by unlocking memories. So as the daughters start killing a lot of enemies, they gain experience points, and you can level them up after the mission has ended. And you get to choice between 2 abilities in order to be able to customize your characters. And I think this is really good, considering that you only get 4 classes. And another way you can upgrade them is by unlocking memories. The more monsters you slay, memories start to become unlocked. And these memories are permanent buffs that you can attach to your different abilities, such as do 50 extra damage, or 10% chance increase on crit, or extra health. And when you unlock these abilities and you attach them to a daughter, she obviously becomes more powerful. But if she dies, then she loses all of these upgrades. And furthermore, every time you unlock a memory, it unlocks an entry into the game's codex, and you get to experience more about the story. And the story, by the way, is really great if you're into Lovecraft. If you're into that type of thing, then you're definitely going to enjoy this. The only downside that I think is that the game rewards you a little bit too much for dying. Like, as I mentioned before, you get access to a resource, and every time you fail a week, you have to restart it over again. But the problem with it is that you get so many of these points that it removes a little bit of the horror element because of the powerful buffs you get. And I do think that this game is going for a horror theme because, as I mentioned, you really do care when your daughters die. Now, I haven't actually finished the game, I have to say. It's just something that I've been playing for several hours, and I definitely enjoy it, which is why I'm recommending it. And even if you're not a person that's interested in the story, or you don't really like the graphic design or anything like that, I want to point out that this is one of the most solid turn-based strategy games that I have played up till date. It's really great, and when you plan any counter out and things go your way, it feels very satisfactory. And here is what happens when you have to restart the week. So as you can see, you get these currency points, which are called shards. And you can, for example, choose this one saying that all daughters gain plus 15% max health. You get for 30 resurrect a fallen daughter. The only problem that I have with this though is that you get so many shards that it really doesn't feel like you're making a choice. Like I would have preferred if I were to choose between Shimmering Blood or Corroded Scissor, for an example. But you have so many that you can just choose both. And this is what removes, in my opinion, a little bit from the horror aspect. Yeah, so the game is on Steam. It's called Othercide. If you're too lazy to type it in the Steam search bar, why do you think I'm not just as lazy as you as to provide the link? Yeah, let me know what you think. It's a great game in my opinion. I wouldn't suggest it any other way. And let me know if you want these game reviews so that I talk about something else rather than just politics surrounding video games, and I just recommend certain things that I do find to be good and solid.